So after this, Jesus gave his disciples the authority to heal people and to cast demons out themselves, and then he sent them out. Okay, and so they went out into all around the land, healing people, casting demons out of people. They came back. They were extremely successful. They were so excited. They tell Jesus that even the demons obey us. So they had been very successful after Jesus gave them the authority to do this. So then we see this story when Jesus took James, John, and Peter up on the mountain, and then he was transfigured. Do you know that story of the Transfiguration? So it's this really amazing time, when Peter, James, and John got to see Jesus in his glorified form. Can you imagine? And so they were gone for a couple of days. Then when they come back, there's a crowd. They see a crowd there, and then this is what happens. And a person from the crowd, so Jesus said, "What's going on, guys?" And one person from the crowd answered Jesus and said, "Teacher, I brought you my son because he has a spirit that makes him unable to speak. So he's mute." So it seems like these demons that made people mute, that was kind of common back then. Is there an equivalent of that today, I wonder? Tell me in the comments. Okay, so whenever the father continues, whenever the demon seizes my son, it slams him to the ground, and he foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and becomes stiff, like a seizure. And I told your disciples so that they would cast it out, but they could not do it. And Jesus answered them and said, "Oh, unbelieving generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring your son to me." So you can hear the frustration in Jesus's voice. He's very unhappy that the disciples were unable to cast the demon out of this boy. I mean, they'd been doing it before. What happened? Then they brought the boy to Jesus. And when the boy saw Jesus, the spirit immediately threw the boy into convulsions, and falling to the ground, he began rolling around and foaming at the mouth. And then Jesus asked the father, "How long has this been happening to him?" And the father said, "From childhood. The demon has often thrown him both into the fire and into the water to kill him. But if you can do anything, take pity on us and help us." So you can hear the father's frustrated too, because he thought he was doing what he needed to do by bringing the boy to the disciples. The disciples couldn't do it. So now he's, is anybody going to be able to help me? But Jesus said, "If you can," if you can, Jesus says, "all things are possible for the one who believes." And immediately the boy's father cried out and said, "I do believe, help my unbelief." This is a great prayer to remember. If you struggle with doubt, I know a lot of people do, pray this prayer: "Help me with my unbelief. I believe, help me with my unbelief." All right, let's finish. Then Jesus saw the crowd was rapidly gathering, so he rebuked the unclean spirit, saying to it, "You mute and deaf spirits, I command you, come out of him and do not enter him again." So note what Jesus is doing. Again, we see an example of Jesus naming the spirit, okay, based on the spirit's characteristics. "You mute and deaf spirit." He says, "I command you to come out of him." And now he says, "Do not enter him again," because remember, demons can come back. But this is a child. He's innocent. So Jesus is closing the door so that this demon cannot come back. So I love that. Okay, after crying out and throwing him into terrible convulsions, the demon came out. The boy became so much like a corpse that most of the people said, "He's dead." That boy is dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and raised him, and he got up. And when Jesus came into the house, his disciples began asking him privately, "Why is it that we could not cast it out?" And Jesus said to them, "This kind cannot come out by anything except prayer." Okay, and then some versions add prayer and fasting. Okay, that's a little bit controversial. Because some people say that they don't believe that the original text actually said "and fasting." Maybe a scribe added that, so we're just not sure. But I think it's clear that Jesus did say prayer. Okay, he may have said "and fasting" as well. All right, so wow, what a crazy story. So the same story is repeated in both Matthew and Luke. Now, I'm not going to read both of them, but I want to read one little section from Matthew's version, because in Matthew's version, after this is all over and the disciples asked Jesus, "Why couldn't we cast out the demons?" Matthew gives us a little bit more of what Jesus said. So Jesus said to them, "Because of your meager faith, for truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you." So this makes a lot more sense too. Now, Jesus had said prayer, but I think he also said this. And so remember when he was rebuking, he was like, "Oh, you faithless generation, how long am I going to have to put up with you?" I think he was talking to the disciples. And then when the Father said, "If you can," Jesus said, "All things are possible for him who believes." So Jesus, this whole time, the problem is the lack of faith. The reason Jesus got so frustrated was because of the lack of faith. Okay. And so this makes a lot of sense that then he said this to them. So what are the probably at least 2 things, maybe 3 things that Jesus said are so important for us to have authority over demons, right? Prayer, maybe fasting. But I can tell you from other parts of the Bible, fasting is very important and it's very helpful. Okay. Prayer, fasting, and faith. You got to have deep faith. And faith is a gift of the Spirit. So if you struggle with faith, you can pray for God to give you more. Faith is so important.